Let's see if you can hear the song.
We can hear it. It's pretty low, but we can hear it.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch, a spider's touch.
Welcome everyone to the DC for Democracy Ward 7 Forum. We're going to get started in just a minute.
Beckons you to enter his web of sin, but don't go in. Golden words he will pour in your ear, but his lies can't disguise what you feel. For a golden girl knows when he's kissed her, it's the kiss of death from Mr. Goldfinger. Pretty girl, beware of this heart of gold.
All right. We are going to stop the lovely Shirley Bassey right there. And I'm going to say welcome everyone to our DC for Democracy Ward 7 and Ward 8 candidate forum. We are really excited to get started in this first hour with our candidates from Ward 7 and then move on to our candidates for Ward 8. My name is Ed Lazier. I am the chair of DC for Democracy, and it is my pleasure to have you with us tonight. I'm going to turn things over in just a minute to Kim Perry, who is our moderator for tonight, and I have made a mistake and closed out my slides, so we're gonna just pause and be patient with me there. But DC for Democracy, for those who don't know, is an all-volunteer organization focused here in the District of Columbia. We support candidates, and the forum tonight is part of our effort to support candidates who are supporting our values, progressive values in the District of Columbia. We hold forums, we endorse candidates, and then when we endorse, we knock on doors for those candidates. And I am getting ready to turn things over now to Kim Perry, who is the Executive Director of DC Action and has moderated DC for D forums before. Really glad to have her here and all the candidates. So Kim, I'm going to try to pull up your slides, and then you should feel free to start. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ed. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's do a little bit of an intro to DC for Democracy, and then we'll cover some ground rules for tonight. DC for Democracy is an all-volunteer political organization that advocates for policies and candidates that make DC communities more inclusive, democratic, and just. It's been a pleasure for me to be a member of DC for D for several years now, and so happy to be hosting tonight's candidate forum. Let's talk ground rules for a little bit. First, questions are from DC for Democracy members. And then there are going to be pre-submitted questions that you'll see toward the end of the session. Each question will have a 1-minute limit, and it will be strictly enforced. For the Ward 7 forum, we have 9 candidates, I think it is. And so we are going to have to stick to time. And we know that all of our candidates are going to follow this rule closely. To our audience members, we ask you to please use the chat to engage respectfully. And then also, most folks are used to putting questions in the chat. We're going to do our very best to get to those questions in the chat. But if we run out of time and we aren't able to get to all of them, we will share all of those questions with the candidates after the forum is over. We anticipate the time will be tight. All right, Let's see. Yep, I think we're good on our ground rules. So we've got everyone here, and we're going to get started. Our first opportunity here is for 1 minute for each of our candidates to introduce themselves. And so candidates, welcome. Thank you for being here. You all look fabulous. We're going to ask you to please come on camera. You can mute until your name is called. But we ask you to introduce yourself to the DC for Democracy community and share with us what you want to do as a Ward 7 council member. And so we're going to start first with Ebony Rose Thompson.
Good evening, DC for Democracy. My name is Ebony Rose Thompson. I currently serve as the president of the DC State Board of Education, and I'm very proud to represent Ward 7 there. I served 3 terms as an advisory neighborhood commissioner in ANC 7F. I'm proud to tell you not just my titles, but what I've been able to do. I'm proud to have modernized the rec center that I went to as a kid as an ANC. I'm proud to have helped modernize 3 schools in Ward 7. And I am someone who really does believe in Ward 7 and from Ward 7 and know that we are not on the negative statistics about us. We have a bright future ahead of us. I'm someone who believes that we can get our fair share in the budget, that we can have good city services, and that we can have the right person to help us go through that future together. And that right person is me. So I look forward to answering your questions. I thank you for your time this evening. And I'm happy to turn it over to the next person.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thompson. Next up, Denise Reed.
Good evening, DC for Democracy and my fellow candidates. I am Denise Reed. I am very pleased to be with you all this evening. I began my service to the District of Columbia back in 1993 with Chairman David Clark. I was his Director of Communications. I also served as Chief of Staff for Ward 7 Council Member Kevin Chavez, and I served as Communications Director for Chairman Linda Kropp and Chairman Vincent Gray. I am currently the National Committee Woman for the DC Democratic Party. I have served as Ward 7 Committee Woman, and I have served in a communications. Wow, was that quick? Okay.
The time goes fast. You'll have some time as we go on. Thank you
All
so
right,
much,
thank
Ms.
you.
Reed. Next up, Dwight Deloach.
Good evening, everyone. It's truly an honor to be here tonight to participate in the DC for Democracy Candidate Forum. I am Dwight Deloach, a Democratic candidate for Ward 7 DC Council Member. I am a native Washingtonian, been in Ward 7 for 18 years. I had a chance to attend Friendship Collegiate Academy and also Delaware State University. I served on the DC Public Charter School Board, Parent and Alumni Council, and worked on issues to find solutions to improve the DC charter schools. In Ward 7, had opportunity to serve as a community family support worker. In that role, I had opportunity to deliver impact for clients in Ward 7 during the COVID-19 pandemic, in which I assisted clients with applying DC emergency rental applications, as well as negotiate payment plans between landlords to prevent evictions. Also assisted clients to apply for LIHEAP utility assistance. I am looking forward to serving as your next DC Ward 7 council member and deliver impact for residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deloach. Is Eben Allen on yet? How about
Yes,
Eben?
I'm here.
Oh,
Mr.
perfect.
How you doing?
Hi there. You're up next. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, DC for Democracy, for having this forum. My name is Eben A. Allen, second generation Ward 7 native. Father grew up in Lincoln Heights. My mother grew up on a small street called Hannah Place. I was the former ANC commissioner of Single Member District 7003, also former ANC chairman of 7E for 1 term. I also was the public safety chair. I might be the only candidate that's dealt with public safety within the last 7 or 8 years. We brought Public Safety Day to the Bennett Park community for 2 consecutive summers. I think that was excellent. I know that I will serve effortlessly as the next Ward 7 DC councilman because I understand how our constituents and residents have been traumatized over these last years. And so I'm definitely dedicated and diligent to work and give my 110%. Make sure you follow me for eben47.com. Thank you, DC for Democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Ebony Payne, you're up next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Ebony Burr, and I'm running for Ward 7 DC Council because I'm really concerned about the recent troubled teenage years and remember very well what it was like to be 15 and know how important it is to support adolescents through their adolescent years. My biggest passion, though, is solving Ward 7's food desert. I work with a number of local farmers throughout life, and so I'm very excited about expanding farmers markets and getting better ingredients into grocery stores, and using grocery stores as anchors for our economic development. And then I'm also the only ANC commissioner to represent the entire 190-acre campus at RFK. You see major changes, so I want to make sure that the community's voice is put first. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Just want to let you know your internet was going in and out, and so there's a way to stabilize your signal. That would be great. Next up is Villarreal or VJ Johnson. Hi there. Welcome. Can you please introduce yourself to the DC for Democracy community and share what you want to do as a Ward 7 council member?
Yes, I can. Thank you for this opportunity. Hello, DC for Democracy. Just allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Valario VJ Johnson. I'm a family man who has spent the last 2 decades enhancing the quality of life for people in Ward 7 and changing and impacting communities. What I want to do with the power and authority of the seat is to continue to do what I've always done for the last 2 decades, which is to build bridges and connect people to what they want and what they need. What we have here is a unity message, and what we have to continue to do is to continue to move Ward 7 forward with progress that is impactful and beneficial to all residents as they are entitled as District of Columbia residents living in Ward 7.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Nate Fleming, you're up next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nate Fleming. I'm a longtime DC for Democracy member, and I believe I have the lived educational and professional experience to deliver results for Ward 7 residents. I grew up in Ward 7, single mother. Now I live in Deanwood with my wife and twins, but education took me to Morehouse, Berkeley for law school, Harvard for government, and Penn for my doctorate. I'm currently a law professor at DePaul. But I believe that when you get opportunities like that, you have a responsibility to come home and create opportunities for others. So that's why I came back to Ward 7 in DC, and I served as DC shadow representative and a legislative director at the council. I've been endorsed by DC for Democracy twice, and I want to continue on doing the work that I've done in Ward 7 and in DC. I created the Ward 7 Dream Grants and restaurant incentive programs. I brought Bard Early College High School to Southeast and drafted legislation to send more money to Ward 7 and Ward 8 schools because we send more money to schools that have more at-risk students. So I look forward to this conversation, and I look forward to building an opportunity agenda where we put people first and we invest in people. And we have to build leadership in this ward by empowering.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fleming. Next up is Kelvin Brown. Is Mr. Brown with us? Next, Yolanda Fields. Okay. Yolanda Fields. All right. We are going to keep moving. All right, this is going to be a little different, candidates. The next few questions aren't going to be for all of you. We're going to divide them up just a little bit. So question number 2 is going to be, and now let's see if we don't have Mr. Brown and Mr. Fields. So this next question is going to be for Nate Fleming, VJ Johnson, and Ebony Payne. Okay. So our next question, after I read it, each of you will have 1 minute to respond. Despite a decade of substantial housing investments, a growing number of low-income DC renters spent more than half of their income on housing, and evictions are on the rise. Many public housing units are in poor shape, and renters in private housing often live in unhealthy and unsafe conditions. Home sale prices east of the Anacostia River are rising and out of reach for so many. What are your housing priorities? First up, Mr. Fleming.
Thank you. That's an excellent question. And as we know, we're in the middle of a housing crisis on top of our public safety crisis, on top of our education crisis. And it's hitting really hard in Ward 7, where 60% of our residents are renters and over 50% of our residents are hit with a high housing burden. So I believe in a lot of policies that I've worked with with DC for Democracy, such as rent control, social housing, in order to alleviate the housing burden. But we also must create more home ownership opportunities. So what I would like to do is invest money, not only in down payment assistance, but preparing our residents for down payment assistance. So that's credit counseling, financial literacy, letting them know about the services that are available. We need to put resources in order to do that. But at the same time, we need to make sure that those that are currently in affordable housing, we need to maintain that housing. And that means we need to strengthen the tenant opportunity to purchase assistance program. And I have experience working directly with communities, working directly with tenants on these issues. What we must do, particularly in Ward 7, where we have so many renters, we must empower renters. And that takes direct work, direct outreach to make sure that renters are informed of their rights, but also that we take residential complaints seriously and escalate them when we're dealing with the Department of Buildings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fleming. Next up, Mr. Johnson.
All right. Can you see me? We're ready?
Yes.
Well, I think the city has done a good job of protecting renters, and I think the council is on the right path. One of the things I would like to bring back is creating opportunities to do conversions. When I first became an ANC commissioner, before the housing bust, we were doing good work in communities like Mayfair, working to turn those apartments into condos. My first project was working to turn Marvin Garden apartments into Penn Circle condos. This is at 27th and Pennsylvania Avenue. We need to be more innovative and more creative with our outreach and with our investments. We know we're dealing with some things in terms of creating new housing stock, but with the existing housing stock that we have, we must incentivize owners to turn these units into condos or into affordable dwelling units, which will give our residents access to ownership.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. And finally, for this question, Ebony Payne.
Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm just gonna hope my internet works.
Oops.
Yes,
Now I
I
can't.
would say that we are not doing a good enough job to, I don't know, I might have to type all my answers. But I would say that we are not doing enough job to support renters. I speak to a number of renters who are living in conditions that are very poor. I actually just received video of a woman's unit that had mold, and she reported that her 10-year-old daughter had chest pains and it was exacerbating her asthma. So we really need to be supporting our renters and making sure that we're holding landlords accountable. We need to be increasing. We have too many empty plots of land, and I think I will try to.
Ms. Payne, we still are having a hard time hearing you. We would recommend, can you call in? You'll have some time between your next question. Maybe you should just dial in. All right, thanks a lot. All right, thank you. Thank you all. We're going to move now to question number 3, same thing. This question will be for Eben Allen, Dwight Deloach, Denise Reed, and Ebony Rose Thompson. And so we'll call you in those orders. And the question is, The DC Council just voted on Secure DC legislation, which increases surveillance and criminal penalties, yet policing and imprisonment have disproportionately harmed Black and Brown people. The Council's Office on Racial Equity says that Secure DC will widen racial inequities. What parts of the new law do you support, and what parts do you oppose? Or more generally, what do you think is needed to make our communities safer? First up is Eben Allen.
I think that's a very phenomenal question. I do want to pay homage and salute to all the council members that have, participated with this act. As far as Safer DC, I believe that as far as the drug-free safe zone, we have to be very cautious on profiling for our young men and Black and Brown families that are in impoverished communities. And so it's not always about mass incarceration, but it also you have to take preventative measures to be able to de-escalate and deal with some of these situations within our marginalized communities. And so for me, I believe with public safety, we have to work with violence interrupter programs, also bringing these programs to our public schools, our recreational centers. And so I think that's key and very, very, very critical when it comes to mass incarceration. And also, I believe that we need to have the public safety comprehension plan as well that should be presented to DC Council. And so I would definitely be open to learn and also be able to support if those measures take place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Allen. Mr. Deloach, also, if all candidates could just come on camera, on video, so we can save some time from the in and out. Thank you. Just come on video and stay on, and then you can just mute until you're speaking. All right, Mr. Deloach.
Yes, good evening. Yes, so Secure DC has now passed and has been signed into law. Some of the provisions that I support is requiring the DC mayor to develop and publish a comprehensive safety plan. Also maintaining the current practice of publishing police officers' names and badge numbers during the public notice of adverse action proceedings, as well as creating a hospitality job training program at the DC jail to provide nutrition meals to serve for inmates. I think these are some initiatives that can be implemented by the DC Council, as well as continue support. Now, for public safety moving forward, if I was elected DC Council member, it would take a multifaceted approach. Right now, our juvenile crime is on the rise, and we need to continue to invest in preventative initiatives to eliminate systemic pitfalls that reduce juvenile criminal activity. I recommend we have to improve the coordination between DC Metropolitan Police Department, DYRS, and Office Attorney General. I propose some solutions such as Project Redemption, which.
Thank you, Mr. Deloach. Ms. Reed.
Thank you. With the plan, I believe that more resources are needed, particularly for those who are returning citizens. I think the Mayor's Office of Returning Citizen Affairs should have more money to help those returning citizens that come to them, that they can provide more training, more outreach to our community partners. There's a lot needed when those individuals return to the community, and to limit recidivism, housing resources, education and training, healthcare, all of that is necessary. And I think MORCA, the Mayor's Office of Returning Citizens Affairs, should be able to provide those elements to our community.
Thank you so much, Ms. Reed. Ms. Thompson.
I've watched the passage of Secure DC closely. I also testified actually in opposition to Act Now. As far as the provisions I support, I appreciated Councilmember Louis George's amendment to move the timeline up for eligibility for the Second Chance Act. I think that was a really important step for those who have paid their debt to society and able to have their records expunged. I also support requiring the mayor to create a public safety plan. We are overdue for that. The hospitality training and healthy food in the jails, we're overdue for that, and we can make that happen. We owe it to people to treat people as people. I also appreciate Councilmember McDuffie's amendment to make sure we can access the effectiveness, that we actually assess the effectiveness of the pretrial detention. I know many people in the public, for many reasons, oppose that, and hopefully we can take a look and it can come off the table and we can move towards a balanced approach to public safety.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Welcome back, Ms. Payne. Looks like you're on your phone.
I am.
Hopefully- say that again. I want to make sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. Welcome back. All right, our next question is for Ms. Reed, Ms. Thompson, Mr. Allen, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Brown. You'll have 1 minute to respond. And the question is, the median household income is $54,000, excuse me, the median Black household income is $54,000 compared to $95,000 for Latino households and $161,000 for white households. What would you do to improve the economic well-being of our lowest income residents? And what would you do to build the income and wealth of Black and Brown residents? Ms. Reed?
Well, I would hope to, one of the things I would like to do is hold community days where agencies come to the community rather than our neighbors having to go down to downtown and find out about resources in the way of training and education that can help to advance their income. Many people don't know really what's available to them. And so I would like to bring together city agencies as well as our community-based partners that offer training and financial literacy and so forth that could possibly help our neighbors to increase their income levels.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Ms. Thompson?
I know well, as a DC native who's been able to make it back, that many times in DC, we have those gaps because we haven't had educational opportunities. I have been someone who has really promoted making sure we have inclusive pathways for education. I think it's really important that we allocate resources and support skill building programs for youth. I think it's really important that we're working with educational institutions to build vocational training apprenticeships and make sure kids can be whatever they want to be in the future. I also think it's really important that we're holding people accountable for how we spend our dollars, whether it's for source, whether it's contracts with city government, making sure that Black and Brown residents have the opportunities that we have in the very resource-rich city that is DC is of the utmost importance to me. And then making sure we're stabilizing families through things like affordable housing and rent control so that they're able to access those opportunities.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Mr. Allen?
Excellent question, DC for Democracy. Yes, I bought 15 new townhomes to the Marshall Heights community. And so, yes, also there's a minority-owned business that actually bought and developed these townhomes in Marshall Heights. I believe that financial literacy, home ownership courses, and workshops should be offered throughout Ward 7, especially in our recreational centers, within our Boys and Girls Clubs, and also other places and pockets throughout Ward 7. Also, I want to bring a STEAM middle school to Ward 7 when you talk about science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics, because if you start younger, you can mold our young scholars to become great and become successful. And I always consider having to go to college, but also have other career pathways to become successful. We need to bring back not just only the Phelps, but the M.M. Washingtons, the Chamberlains. And so that will be able to serve our community. That makes a difference. And also with Fletcher Johnson, they're going to bring an emergency care center, but also we need other amenities for our property house values to go up as well. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brown? Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Mr. Johnson, you're up next.
I think we need to be aggressive in pursuing reparations for African Americans in the District of Columbia. I think Georgetown has led us and gave us a pathway into how to approach this situation. That gap is too wide to have any social program or government investment that is not tied to paying people for what they are owed. The African American community in the District of Columbia is not there by themselves. They're there because of racism, discriminatory policies, and just bad laws that kept them from accessing opportunities. And we need to rectify that by calculating the amount of money owed and follow Georgetown's lead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Brown. Oops.
Mr. Brown isn't with us today.
Yep. Thank you for that. All right. Thank you all for answering that. We're on question number 5 now. Let's keep moving. Same format. I'll read the question. You'll have a 1-minute response, but this time the question is for Mr. DeLoach, Ms. Payne, oops, Mr. Fleming, and Ms. Fields. Or no, Ms. Fields isn't here. We'll go through. So Mr. DeLoach, Ms. Payne, and Mr. Fleming, here's your question. Despite nearly universal health coverage, DC's maternal health outcomes are shocking. Opioid deaths are high and rising. Chronic health problems like diabetes are common, and untreated trauma contributes to high rates of mental health needs. What are your priorities for improving the health of our residents? Mr. DeLoach?
Yes, definitely advocating for mental health as well as maternal health will be a priority of mine. The health in the minority underserved community has disproportionately served as, a lot of racial and issues that we have had to overcome over the years. So I would love to advocate for additional funding for Department of Behavioral Health, as well as making sure that residents have access to quality healthcare services, make sure that create pathways to make sure that individuals can access public benefits in the city, and making sure that they have the access to apply for benefits as well. Again, as a former family support worker, I had those opportunities to work directly with residents to make sure that they didn't fall behind and not have access to some of these services. So advocating for these residents and make sure that they have equal access to healthcare is my priority.
Thank you, Mr. DeLoach. Ms. Payne.
Hi, this is my favorite question. So my background is in health and wellness. I went to straight to vocational school. I went to massage therapy school straight out of high school, and specialized in pregnancy massage. So improving maternal health outcomes was very personal and one of my favorite things to do. And I work with a number of local farmers, and fixing our food desert in Ward 7 is my biggest passion. So I want to see more farmers markets expanded east of the river, and more grocery stores that actually have fresh ingredients that are not expired. And once we can get healthy food into folks and get their diets cleaned up, that is going to solve the root cause of our poor health outcomes. We can count the number of grocery stores on our hands, but we have all of these liquor stores all throughout the ward. So we need to balance that and make sure that we're actually providing healthy foods to people, and make sure that they can walk to a grocery store. I would also be focused on ensuring that low-income residents.
Thank you so much, Ms. Payne. Appreciate it. Mr. Fleming.
Yes, so we all know that health disparities are a major challenge in Ward 7 and east of the river. As a legislative director, I worked on negotiating to bring United Medical Center the expansion with George Washington, and worked to ensure that Howard University was included. I worked to bring good food markets to Ward 8, and that wasn't actually successful. So sometimes we know what's been tried and failed, and that's important to know. I would focus on mental health outcomes. I would focus on health disparities, particularly for children and for our seniors. A lot of our seniors have problems with access to transportation to assess medical services. We need to focus on food security. We also need to focus on dental care. Even though 85% of Ward 7 residents are covered by health insurance, there are big gaps, particularly for seniors as it relates to dental care. And then finally, we need to make sure that we focus on treating homicide as a public health issue. Homicide is the fifth leading cause of death in Ward 7. So we need to take the public health approach and treat it like an epidemic and take a comprehensive approach to one of the leading causes of.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fleming. All right, candidates, we are moving to the lightning round. If you're not familiar with the lightning round, it goes really fast. I will ask a question or make a statement. If you agree with the question, you will put your thumb up, make sure it's close to the camera so everyone can see, or your thumb down. And again, make sure it's close to the camera so we can all see, and just hold it there for a few minutes until I move on to the second question. Got it? Deal? All right. Here we go. Currently, only buildings constructed before 1976 are covered by rent control. Do you support applying rent control to apartment buildings once they reach 15 years of age, including phasing in current buildings? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thank you, candidates. Second, do you support banning solitary confinement in the DC jail? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. Mr. Fleming, I don't see yours. And Mr. Allen, thank you very much. Next question. Do you support raising property taxes on the highest valued homes valued at $2 million or more? Thumbs up for yes, down for no. Thank you very much. Do you support the recent effort to expand pretrial detention of people accused of crime but not convicted? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no.
Can you repeat the question?
Sideways there. Ms. Payne?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Do you support the recent effort to expand pretrial detention of people accused of crime but not convicted? Thank you, candidates. Do you support the decision to create drug-free enforcement zones? And those are areas that'll be targeted for increased surveillance, where it'll be easier for police to stop and question residents. Thumbs up for yes, no, and down for no. Mr. Viller, okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next question. The RFK site may soon be under DC control. Most neighbors want to protect its current uses like playing fields, a farmer's market, adding housing or other amenities. Mayor Bowser wants to bring an NFL stadium to the site. Do you support prioritizing an NFL stadium at RFK? Thumbs up for yes, and thumbs down for no. Thank you, candidates. Some restaurants now use service fees that add up to 20% to a customer's bill. While the money goes to the owner, many customers tip less because they think the fees go to workers. Do you support banning deceptive restaurant service fees? Thumbs up for yes and down for no. Double thumbs, I see that. Okay, thank you, candidates. Do you support Initiative 83, which would bring ranked choice voting to DC and create open primaries? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. I see some sideways. Oh, now down. All right, thank you, candidates. Our final lightning round question. Do you support prohibiting Washington Gas from spending billions to upgrade pipes and passing on the cost to customers, given that DC is working to phase out fossil fuels? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear the first part.
It's okay, yes. Do you support prohibiting Washington Gas from spending billions to upgrade pipes and passing on the cost to customers, given that the district is working to phase out fossil fuels? Thumbs up for yes and down for no. Thank you, candidates. Thank you. All right, we are going to transition to some more long form questions. And we also will divide these up by who will answer. So this next question is going to go to Ms. Reed, Ms. Payne, Ms. Thompson, and Mr. Deloach. And the next question is actually coming from a DC for Democracy member, Sharice Muhammad.
Good evening to all of the Ward 7 DC Council candidates. I am Sharice Muhammad, a Ward 7 resident and member of DC for Democracy. For the past several years, the dearth of retail in Ward 7 is among the top concerns. While we applaud the opening of the new restaurants in the Penn Branch and Deanwood communities, we pale in comparison to the retail options of other wards. What is your analysis of this pertinent issue? And if elected, what is your approach to providing more retail options to the Ward 7 communities?
All right. So that was our question from Ms. Muhammad. What's your plan for retail options here? Yep, in Ward 7. And we'll start first with Ms. Reed.
So I think a lot of it has to do with our crime, and possible investors are reluctant to invest in areas where crime is pervasive. So first we have to get the crime under control, so they'll feel comfortable coming into our ward, so customers will feel safe going into retail businesses that might occur in our ward. And I don't think I think there are a lot of investors that would like to come into the ward, but there's so much crime going on that they don't feel like their investment will pan out, that it would be of value. And as we've seen in other areas, they invested in businesses and then only stayed a little while because crime comes up.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Ms. Payne.
Yes, I see a big need to support small and local businesses and getting their doors open. We can spur economic development and retail stores through creating like an incubator space in the ward that would actually help small business owners like be able to meet with their teams and manufacture their products. I do think that the crime and theft is a problem, and it prevents people from wanting to do business in the ward. But we can be taking active steps to direct grants and funding towards small business owners and creating retail spaces for them that's shared so that rental costs aren't so high. So I definitely want to see more of an emphasis put on targeting small businesses in the ward and making sure that we are supporting them from getting their doors open to staying open through the whole.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Ms. Thompson, retail options.
Yes. As a Ward 7 resident, I know we need more economic development that balances the needs of businesses, really including small business owners and entrepreneurs, and what long-term residents want, and also welcoming new residents. I think the job of the council member is to work with agencies, business leaders, and residents. I think Fletcher Johnson is a wonderful example of this, where I work with others to push to identify like actually publicly owned space that we can develop, staying on top of DMPED, making sure that they're investing in the way we need it to be invested in, making sure that the council member stays on top of the budget. And is not just allocating funds like we have currently the East End Grocery Store Incentive Act, but that money is actually being spent in Ward 7. So it is both the putting the money there, seeing the projects through, and we have a lot of projects in the pipeline which need to be completed.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Mr. Deloach.
Yes, small business and economic empowerment is one of my campaign pillars, and I want to see more opportunities for Ward 7 small businesses to start their own small business. I want to advocate for more funding with the DC Deputy Mayor for Economic and Planning and Development. I want to see more retail grants awarded to Ward 7 residents, and we have to have targeted opportunities. We need to also uplift our small businesses. We need to show them that we support them. We also need to revitalize some of the shopping centers we already have. East River Shopping Center, I live not too far, have a lot of vacant opportunities for new retail options, but we have to work with developers and property and mall owners to make sure that their sites are positioned to cater to customers. And we have to make sure that we do reduce crime to make sure residents feel safe when they're shopping. So all these are some of the pledges I am hoping to do if I'm elected.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deloach. All right, and thank you, candidates, on that question. The next question is coming again from another DC for Democracy member, Laura Fuchs. And let's see, here's the order. This question will be answered by Mr. Fleming, Mr. Allen, and Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Laura Fuchs, and I'm a teacher at H.D. Woodson High School. Ward 7 does not have a stable feeder pattern with consistent programming that goes pre-K through 12. Kelly Miller, the only middle school that feeds into H.D. Woodson, allows all its students a right to attend either Eastern High School or H.D. Woodson. Not only this, Kelly Miller is seeing the largest FY25 budget cuts compared to any other school in DCPS, potentially losing over $300,000 plus a loss of purchasing power due to rising costs, which will cost many educator positions and make it very hard for the entire feeder pattern to continue improving academically. What will you do to ensure a strong, consistent, and fully funded feeder pattern for Ward 7 moving forward?
All right. Mr. Fleming, you're up.
Excellent. So we know that we have to do things like address our feeder pattern to solve the problem of 50% of the students in this ward do not attend school in this ward. And we know we have issues in the budget. I remember when I worked at the council overseeing the budget, there were $31 million in missing funding from Ward 7 and East of the River schools. And I led the fight not only to restore that funding, but also to create legislation where schools that have more at-risk students, like East of the River schools, get more funding. That's why our biggest budget gap now is $300,000. Moving forward, we need more innovative programming. I work to bring Bard Early College high school to Southeast, where students in 4 years not only get a high school degree, but get an associate's degree. That type of innovative programming is what we're going to need to increase that feeder pattern and attract our families to stay in Ward 7 for school. We also must enhance our higher education system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Allen.
Excellent question. And I'm glad that you're serving and educating our scholars at H.D. Woodson Senior High School. Both of my parents attended Kelly Miller Middle School. There's so much rich history about Kelly Miller Middle School. And so I've worked in education for 20 plus years. I'm educated myself. I actually worked at IDEA Public Charter School last year. However, you must try to build relationships and market and advertise and build relationships with elementary schools. They have cluster schools on Capitol Hill. So how come we can't have cluster schools in Ward 7? As far as C.W. Harris, J.C. Knoll, Ann Beers, some of those schools can feed into Kelly Miller, and also the top scholars will be able to feed into H.D. Woodson High School. I recall the day that H.D. Woodson had a business and finance program. When I attended Morehouse College, I met a couple of gentlemen that actually were in the business and finance program. So you had to have robust type of programs to offer to our young scholars. But also, when you talk about budget cuts, Ron Brown also suffered a budget cut. So we have to make sure we preserve and keep Ron Brown High School open as well as H.D. Woodson Senior High School open. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, Mr. Allen. Mr. Johnson.
I think in order to solve for X, we have to understand the why. And I think it's easy to say that the feeding patterns in Ward 7 are broken, but we have to talk about parent choice, and we have to talk about why parents are electing to send their children to other schools outside of the Ward 7 community. One of the things that we've looked at, Kelly Miller is one, Sousa is another one. The communities in which these schools are in need deep investment. The quality schools that we're sending our children to across town are in different communities with more resources. Banneker, next to Howard, School Without Walls, GW, Jackson Reed, next to American University. We have to do more to invest in the communities that the schools are in. We can continue to fund them. We can continue to throw money at it. We can continue to advocate and make for community schools. But if we do not do nothing about the neighborhoods that these schools are in, we will find ourselves back here next year with this same question and these same answers.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Our final question for tonight's forum is to all of you as candidates. And so here we go. Final question. When we ask young people what they need to address violence in their communities, they've made it clear that there aren't enough safe places to go after school with mentors and positive things to do in their neighborhoods. How would you address and fund the need for additional safe, enriching opportunities for youth in Ward 7? Mr. Fleming, you're up first.
I've noticed I've always been up first every time I've asked the question, but it's fine. Well, when I ran for council 2 years ago, I ran on a vision called Universal After School. And that was a vision that we unilaterally pushed, and that led to the Universal Out of School Time Act being introduced last December. So my vision is that 100% of Ward 7's youth need to be connected to a high quality after school and before school program of their choice. Right now, only 24% of Ward 7 students are connected to an after school opportunity. I also believe that we need to make our summer youth employment program a year-round program for thousands of DC's teenagers. We need to increase the salaries from below sub-minimum wage salaries to make sure that our youth are engaged and they're enriched all year round. So in that bill, when I'm on the council, I'm going to make an amendment that the 100% universal after school, out of school time be first implemented in Ward 7 and Ward 8, areas east of the river.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Mr. Johnson, you're up next.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, absolutely, sure.
Thank you.
When we ask young people what they need to address violence in their communities, they've made it clear that there aren't enough safe spaces to go after school with mentors and positive things to do in their neighborhoods. How would you address and fund the need for additional safe and enriching opportunities for youth in Ward 7?
I agree. We do need to provide more, and we do need to give our young people what they want. This is the work that I'm doing here in our community with pushing for additional dollars to build an aquatic facility. This is the work that we've already done in Twining many, many years ago, which led to a new facility in the Twining neighborhood. We have to take ownership of what's happening. As a council member, my job is to provide oversight of the budget and agencies. We have to find the money and we have to redirect the money to build more, to do more. Programming like here in Hillcrest or programming like at Fort Davis, we could do more creative opportunities that allow children, students, neighbors to benefit from the assets that are in their community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Payne, and then Mr. Allen will follow. Ms. Payne.
Yes, I want to highlight Maloof Skate Park, which is on the RFK campus. I just met with a lot of boys from Eastern High School who are very passionate about keeping the skate park because it specifically helps them stay out of trouble and gives them a refuge from the daily gun violence that they face. And they're very concerned about the city demolishing their skate park. So we need to keep resources like the skate park in the fields at RFK and expand those resources east of the river so that all kids, regardless of which side of the river they live on, have those safe spaces. We need to invest in after school programs and get rid of their idle time, invest in mentorships, and really put an emphasis on supporting our youth through their adolescent years.
Thank you so much. Mr. Allen and then Mr. Deloach.
Excellent question. I love the youth of Washington, D.C., and I definitely love the youth in Ward 7. Just last year on Father's Day, I lost a young man by the name of Kevin Mason, who lost his life with his cousin in Ward 8. but Kevin Mason was one of my former students at IDEA Public Charter School. And one of the dreams Kevin had was talking about his dreams of becoming a hip hop star, right? And so I think it's very, very important that our schools build relationships with DPR, even extending the DPR time frame, even coming up with a midnight basketball league. And also our very, very support of grassroots organizations, such as I brought Morehouse Day to DC Public Schools, where we've talked to 450 young men throughout Washington, DC. And we also talked to young men at Kelly Miller Middle School and Ron Brown All-Mill Public High School. So I'm definitely an advocate and very be supportive on the council to support those grassroots organizations, and also give robust type of resources when you talk about the ONE's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Much love and peace and protection and safety for our youth. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Allen. Mr. Deloach?
Yes, we have to continue to invest in our youth. The youth is the future. I was a product of a Ward 7 business, the Fishing School, which was a faith-based after-school program, and which provided tutoring and support after school for middle school students. We have to invest in those type of programs, mentorship. I was also a distinguished alumni from the Fishing School, but we also have to invest in the Department of Recreations, right? Free programming. We have to also invest in the Marion Summer Youth Program. I was blessed to also participate, and that was my first summer job that I ever had. And so we have to continue to invest and uplift our youth. We also need to provide opportunities that youth haven't had in the city, such as investing in podcast development or technology and teaching them coding and skills that is going to help them train for the next jobs of the pillarship, and also entrepreneurship. So I look forward to investing in our youth, which is the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Deloach. Ms. Reed?
Thank you. I believe that there should be after-school programs available through DPR, through the actual schools, through the libraries, and of course, all of this with parent permission. I think that is a key factor in keeping our youth involved, on track with their education, have tutoring services available at those locations, and also there are many community partners that would be willing to participate in the effort. But I think that is the key to moving our youth forward.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Ms. Thompson?
I really appreciate that you started this question with, we heard from the youth what they need. I was at Eastern today with the Office of the Student Advocate, hearing from youth about how the Safe Passage programs are working. I think there are 3 things that the council can do. One is to fully fund the renovation and modernization of our recreation centers. We have several facilities in Ward 7, like Fort Davis, that have been untouched. And the programming needs to be of higher and better quality at those recreation centers. 2, we should be able to fund year-round SYEP. 3, funding for out-of-school time programs is imperative, and not only in my budget letter, but we have passed the SBOE resolution encouraging the council to fully fund OST. I used to run a program out of Neville Thomas. And then the last thing I will leave you with is just how we build our city. When we look at the RFK campus and the fact that part of it is reserved for recreation, there's a huge opportunity there to build places.
Thank you so much for your response, Ms. Thompson. And Ms. Payne, right, last but not least?
I spoke about Maloof Skate Park on the RFK campus and how important it is to the kids at Eastern. Yeah.
Okay, we got everybody there. All right, thank you so much. And we have now arrived at closing statements. Each of you will have 1 minute for your closing statement. Guess what, Mr. Fleming? No, just kidding. First up will be Mr. Johnson, and then Ms. Payne.
Thank you for this opportunity. As I said in the beginning, I'm reintroducing myself. My name is Valario VJ Johnson. I'm making Ward 7 one by building bridges and connecting people to what they need and want. We've been doing this for 2 decades. I've served as a commissioner for 10 years. I'm currently the president of the Hillcrest Community Civic Association, and I worked on a number of boards, Marshall Heights to Washington East Foundation, and I've helped bring a number of main streets to Ward 7. What you get from me is someone that understands how to make government work for you and to meet the needs of people. Vote VJ. My website is VJ4ward7.com. VJFORWARD.com. Thank you so much for this time.
Thanks, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Payne?
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you again for having me, DC for Democracy. I apologize for all of the technical difficulties. I am going to put my telephone number in the chat just for people to be able to reach me so they can connect with me directly and talk more. I can answer any questions about my platform. But I am very passionate about solving Ward 7's food desert. That is my primary focus for east of the river. I've been utilizing my network with the local farmers, mostly in the herbal industry, but I'm really excited about expanding that to supporting all of the Black farmers I know in Maryland, and just actually really putting our heads together and making it happen and creating opportunities for everyone to succeed in life. So I'm very passionate about supporting young people through their adolescent years, and very much look forward to connecting with all of you. You can also visit my website, ebonypayneforward7.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, you're up next. Closing statement.
Again, I want to thank DC Democracy for hosting this forum. It's been a pleasure, and I'm delighted to be here. Again, my name is Eben A. Allen. I consider myself one of the sons of Ward 7. My pops grew up in Lincoln Heights, my mom grew up on Hannah Place, and my brother grew up in Bennett Terrace. I know that I'll be fully committed to represent the people of Ward 7. I've dealt with ANC Commissioner for 2 terms, ANC Chair for 1 term, Public Safety Chair for ANC 7E. I brought Public Safety Day for ANC 7E for 2 consecutive summers. I know that the love for the people, we will make changes. And I want everyone in Ward 7 to make Ward 7 theirs so we can create a better and a greater Ward 7. Again, my name is Eben A. Allen, and I'm running to become the next council member for Ward 7. Follow me at Eben47 for all my social media handles and Eben47.com. Thanks again, DC for Democracy.
Thanks, Mr. Allen. Mr. Fleming, you're up next, and then Mr. Deloach.
So at the beginning of this meeting, it was said that DC for Democracy stands for inclusivity, democracy, and justice in DC. And when it comes for the fight for systemic injustice in our city, whether it's the racial wealth gap, health disparities, educational equity, housing security, or public safety, those battles are in Ward 7. I believe that sustainable change cannot happen without building community power. And in order to do this, someone must stand when others are sitting. And that's what I know firsthand, what DC for Democracy specializes in doing, standing when others are sitting. And I asked for his members to partner with me, a long-term member, on this campaign to build and empower our community from the ground up, not from the top down. I know from working at the council, for change to occur, you need an engaged and empowered community on top of innovative legislation and robust investments for the budget. And I work with DC for Democracy to create that environment. Please support me in this endorsement campaign. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fleming. Mr. Deloach, and then Ms. Reed.
Yes, it's truly appreciative the opportunity to share my vision with the DC for Democracy stakeholders. Again, I'm Dwight Deloach. Ward 7 has a bright future ahead, but we must work together to fulfill this promise. If elected as the next Ward 7 DC council member, my priorities will be affordable and equitable housing, public safety and reducing juvenile crime, economic empowerment, creating small business opportunities, revitalizing our educational system, and providing quality food access to all Ward 7 residents. I want to make sure that the District of Columbia resources are equally distributed within all wards, and especially Ward 7. It is time for Ward 7 residents for their voices to be heard. This campaign is for all residents and that are striving for a better future. And each one of you have a voice that must be heard and a perspective to influence our community. I am committed to this fight. I heard the call to get into good trouble. I ask you to join this movement. Follow me at Dwight Deloach for Ward 7, and I will also put my information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Reed, you're up, and Ms. Thompson, you'll close us out. Ms. Reed? Closing statement.
Thank you very much for this Thank you very much for this opportunity, DC for Democracy. Again, I am Denise Reed. I feel I am uniquely qualified and prepared to move Ward 7 forward together with our neighbors. Crime, economic development, and providing resources to families, those are my priorities. And I'm looking forward to doing that starting in January 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Ms. Thompson.
Again, my name is Ebony Rose Thompson. I think the thing that people should know about me is my why. I am from Ward 7, I'm proud to make it back to Ward 7. And I want to make sure that people who look like me, who come from where I come from, are not working to make it out. But our challenge really is to make it back. That is why my priorities are about housing. That's why my priorities are about education. That's why my priorities are about inclusive development. And that's why a priority for me is public safety. I'm asking you for your support, not because I am a DC for Democracy member, but because I'm the right person from Ward 7 to work with Ward 7 and to continue working for Ward 7. I know what it means to represent Ward 7 well. It has been an honor and a privilege. And I am only looking to continue to take on the work of the council, not looking for another title. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. And thank you all, candidates. It takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there to run for office. And so we just appreciate you being a leader in your communities and certainly for joining us this evening. Thank you so much. Best wishes on your campaigns. I'm going to turn it over or back over to my colleague, Ed Lazaire.
Well, I just want to echo Kim's comment to thank all of the candidates for being here tonight and for this really robust and varied conversation. Also, just deeply impressed that everyone was able to stick within 1 minute for most of the questions. I know how hard that is. Thank you so much. That allowed us to get through a lot of questions and a lot of material. I did put in the chat that a number of the Ward 7 candidates and Ward 8 as well have filled out the DC for Democracy questionnaire, and we posted them on our website. I put a link to that in the chat so that you can read more detailed answers on similar questions from many of the candidates. Thank you to those who filled it out. I also just want to quickly say before we switch to Ward 8, and in case some people might be dropping off, but we hope you will stay for the Ward 8 forum as well, that the next step of the DC for Democracy process is a meeting on April 24th, where we invite members and friends to come and speak on behalf of the candidate that they would like DC for D to endorse. People who sign up, you will get an email in advance to allow you to sign up. And that will be the place where you can say that you would like to speak and who you would like to speak on behalf of. You'll get 1 minute to speak, just like tonight. You'll have 1 minute to speak on behalf of the candidate of your choice. After that event on the evening of April 24th, people who are members of DC for Democracy who have met our membership requirements will be emailed a ballot and then have several days to vote. And that is how we will do our endorsement or how we will handle our endorsement vote. And I just wanted to make that clear to all the Ward 7 candidates and all the Ward 7 supporters before we moved on to Ward 8. And I will now ask all the Ward 7 candidates, certainly welcome to stay, but we'd ask you to go off video while we bring on our Ward 8 candidates. And now I will turn it back to Kim to welcome in our Ward 8 candidates and to remind them of the ground rules.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ed. Give me 1 second here. Welcome to our Ward 8 candidates. Hi there. Let's see. We've got 2 so far. Let's give a minute to others to come on. Hello there. All right.
Mr. Branch is here as well. We'll just ask him to come on video. There we are.
There we go. How about Mr. Canaday?
I've not seen him. I think we should move ahead without him.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's get moving and review our ground rules. Do you have the slide, Ed? Thank you. All right, welcome everyone. As Ed mentioned, I'm Kim Perry, so happy to be back moderating. the DC for Democracy Forum this evening. Even though we just have 4 candidates, yes, it's still going to be an ambitious agenda. Hopefully we will get through everything. Just want to give a couple of reminders. So the questions are from DC for Democracy's membership. They were pre-submitted questions. Each of our questions tonight are going to have a 1-minute limit, and it will be strictly enforced. We're using the timer, and your audio will be cut off when your time is up. So we need to be as concise as possible. To our audience members, please use the chat. We ask you to engage respectfully. I know you will. Also, most folks will put questions in the chat, and that's fine. We're going to get to questions if we do. In the case we run out of time, we will forward your questions to the candidates after the forum is over. All right, let's get started. And we're going to begin with opening remarks from each of you. And we just ask that you introduce yourselves and let our audience members know why you are running for Ward 8 council member and what you have to offer. And we will start first with Mr. Batchelor.
Thanks, Kim, and thanks, everybody. DC for Democracy. My name is Marcus Batchelor. First and foremost, I am a proud Ward 8 resident, a son of Ward 8, a third-generation Washingtonian, a proud member of DC for Democracy. I joined DC for Democracy when I was 16, so a longtime member now. And I'm running for Ward 8 council member for 2 reasons. One is because I love Ward 8. I was born here, I was raised here. I got the opportunity to serve this community. It's where I found my voice and where I was given the opportunity to pursue my dreams. I'm also running because I know that Ward 8 is at a crossroads. Inequality is deeper than it's ever been before. Despair is deeper in our community than it's ever been before, but we have the unique opportunity to turn the tremendous progress coming over the river into real opportunity for our residents. But we can't do any of those things without strong advocacy from the council and without a leader who's going to bring our community.
Thank you, Mr. Batchelor. Mr. Salim Adolfo.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Salim Adolfo. I currently serve as the chairperson of Advisory Neighborhood Commission 8C. I am running for this seat because I want to see some changes in our community that are very dear to my heart, as well as the residents that I serve. We have some food access issues that I'm currently working on with the Ward 8 Farmers Market to scale up. We have a lot of issues as it pertains to environmental injustice that I've been working with a variety of different organizations to put forth the EJ Task Force in the ward to deal with many of the children that suffer from asthma in the ward and other respiratory issues. I want to see our infrastructure in the ward change. We have roads that need to be repaved. We have sidewalks. We have a plethora of issues as it pertains to infrastructure that I'm currently working on and want to see improved. And I think all of these are underlining and undergirding the elements of public safety that we want to see improve in our ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Raman Branch, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, DC for Democracy. My name is Rahman Branch. I'm a former principal of Ballou Senior High School, former director of the Mayor's Office on African American Affairs. My why in this work is quite simple, and I'll try not to bore anyone. Ultimately, having had thousands of Ward 8 children come through Ballou Senior High School, we educated them with the promise of what DC would become and how they need to prepare for that future. And we've seen that DC arrive, but stop just shy of the bridge. And for multiple reasons, our young people have not received the opportunity and the access for real change that we prepared them for. And as a result, we have a lot of challenges in our ward, and our people are not thriving the way that they should. I believe the needle has gone backwards in the other direction. And as council member, having worked in the mayor's office and having a real connection to the youth of our ward, I can make sure that we establish programs, processes, and access to opportunity to make sure that tomorrow is better than today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Branch. And Mr. Trayon White, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I want to thank you, DC for Democracy, for your leadership. That's encompasses inclusivity, being democratic, and justice for the residents of the District of Columbia. My name is Trayon White. I am the council member of the Great Ward 8. Part of why I'm running for re-election is because I've made a promise to God that if given the opportunity, I'll come and make myself better and make our community better. And I've been doing just that for over 19 years straight. I've been committed to excellence. I believe that we are not where we should be, but we are far where we was. And I think that part of my leadership brings the acumen, the relationships on the council, and the business savvy, and in the community relationships to get things done. I've delivered when it comes to creating more grocery options in the ward. I've delivered when we come to building more recreation centers in the ward. I delivered when it comes to creating funding for businesses. I deliver when we talk about after school programming. And I just believe we have far more to go. So I'm here to run for re-election to reclaim my title for the Ward 8 councilman for the Great Ward 8. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. White, Councilmember White. All right, our next question. So these next 3 questions, I think it is, I'll read the question and each of you will have 1 minute to respond. And the order for this question will be Councilmember White, Mr. Branch, Mr. Batchelor, and Mr. Adolfo. Okay. Here we go. Despite a decade of substantial housing investments, a growing number of low-income DC renters spend more than half of their income on housing, and evictions are on the rise. Many public housing units are in poor shape, and renters in private housing often live in unhealthy and unsafe conditions. Home sale prices east of the Anacostia River are rising and out of reach for so many residents. What are your housing priorities?
Thank you. That's a great question. Thank you. So I've been intently focused on affordable housing, and that may mean different things to different people. I'm talking about deep level affordable housing for all people of the District of Columbia. In fact, I was the one who authored the legislation to change the Housing Production Trust Fund legislation to take the $1 million, take the $100 million a year to make it more affordable for DC residents. And so we're not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. I was integral in providing new housing for art housing in DC. I was integral in providing 2 new senior living facilities in Ward 8. We just did a grand opening for the Clare last week. I'm working on the Berry Farms project, open a new senior home there. Livingston Place, Park Southern, and on DHCD back and Office of Housing and Finance Agency for funding deep levels of affordable housing in the district. When it comes to the projects in Ward 8, I have a meeting every Monday at 5 o'clock. That's zeroing in and making sure not only we are getting great quality living, but dealing with the dilapidated houses in Ward 8. I've been meeting with residents across the district, creating new policies around holding property owners accountable for dilapidated housing. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There may be some time later. Mr. Branch and then Mr. Batchelor.
Thank you. So I think ultimately a couple things are important at the same time, and they all have to happen in concert with one another. I think the first thing that we have to make sure that we do, I'm sorry, I was told I can't be heard. I was told the first thing that we have to make sure that we do as a organization, as a council, is to make sure that Housing Production Trust Fund is solidified and make sure that the price does come down for our residents. We have to make sure that folks who are meeting in that housing purgatory, we call it, those who are making not enough to qualify, but more than enough to receive service, that we capture that population of people to make sure that housing is affordable for them. I also definitely believe that there's a need for us to crack down on slumlords who are now helping our people live in the most horrid of conditions. We have a lot of residents who are living in conditions that are not at health standards. And as a result, a lot of young people are now having respiratory issues and health issues as a result of living in these spaces and places. And I think it has to be said that we also need to make sure that access to opportunities that earn a real income allow our folks to now buy and purchase and rent to a degree that they deserve.
Thanks so much, Mr. Branch. Mr. Batchelor.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first and foremost, as council member, I'm going to focus on us building to the need. Unfortunately, year over year, the Housing Production Trust Fund never meets its commitment, its statutory commitment to building to that 30% AMI and below. We need a council member who's going to hold folks accountable for getting that money out the door and making sure we're actually producing the housing that we need. There are far too many people sleeping on our streets and living in substandard housing because we're not building to the need. If we've spent $1 billion on affordable housing already. We should be one of the best housed cities in America. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We also need to focus on non-market solutions to housing, like social housing, recommit to real public housing that gives people an economic floor and security. I'm all on board with the Reclaim Rent Control platform to preserve the affordability that we have and expand it. And obviously, we got a lot of work to do to make sure our seniors can age in place. My grandmother, who's 97, is doing it here in Ward 8, and I know more residents can do it as well.
Thanks, Mr. Batchelor. Mr. Adolfo.
Yes, one of the first things I think that we need to do is make sure that there is enough funding in the Emergency Rental Assistance Program that always runs out immediately as soon as people apply. Second thing is working to make sure that we get folks into the HPAP program, helping them to get to the level where they can purchase homes, helping them repair their credit, and doing the things that's necessary to get them into a variety of different home owners. First-time homeowners programs. Another thing is when something I'm currently working with is a variety of residents who wind up self-evicting because of the conditions of the property that they live in. So we want to make sure that places such as Marbury Plaza, Oxon Manor, or Wingate, that these places are fit for a human being to live. So working to make sure that the Department of Buildings can conduct their inspections in a timely fashion, but also making sure that the Office of the Attorney General can hold folks who are delinquent and making sure that these things are happening accountable. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Adolfo. Our third question. Everybody ready to go?
Yes.
So this question, here's the order that you all will respond in. Again, 1 minute for the response. And this time the order will be Councilmember White, Mr. Branch, Mr. Adolfo, and Mr. Batchelor. Here's your question. The DC Council just voted on Secure DC, which increases surveillance and criminal penalties. But policing and imprisonment in DC have disproportionately harmed Black and Brown people. The Council's Office on Racial Equity says that Secure DC will widen racial inequities. What parts of the new law do you support, and what parts do you oppose? Or more generally, what do you think is needed to make our communities safer?
Thank you for that question. I believe that most of the laws that's in Secure DC already exist. It's already illegal to sell drugs in our community. It's already illegal to smoke drugs in our community. The issue is that we're not dealing with the underlying issues in our community: substance abuse, mental health services, job creation, business ownership, quality, equitable housing. And so that's why I introduced an amendment to address those in the drug-free zones. I also think that we're not going farther enough to provide after-school programming for youth and young adults with year-round programming. Therefore, I introduced a piece of legislation that's designed to hire youth while they're in school to become peer mediators in their schools. I believe that police is not the end-all solution to addressing crime in our community. That's why I added an amendment that bring in DBH, Department of Health, DOES, and all other local government agencies to right-size this bill. I also believe that it takes a whole community to decrease crime, not just the police department, the council, or the mayor. All of us have a role to play in helping our community become safer.
Thanks, Councilmember White. Mr. Branch.
Thank you. I think a really successful program would look like greater investment in the issues that help cause criminality and the challenges that occur when folks aren't allowed for an opportunity to really access the many different programs that exist in the district. While I think there is, there are parts of the Secure DC Omnibus that currently exist on the books. I have some real reservations around some of the things that I've seen, specifically around the DNA collection. There's a little bit of scrutiny around the provisions related to pretrial detention. I think those things have to be made into taken into consideration on a case-by-case basis. But I think it is very important that we address and attack the issues that kind of create criminality. A lot of it is based on the aspects of poverty. We haven't had a war on poverty yet. We've only had a war on the poor. And we have to change that and really address the issues that are causing poverty. And then we'll see people have greater access to options, which would then produce better results and outcomes because folks will have a greater set of decisions they can make based upon great inputs.
Thanks, Mr. Branch. Mr. Adolfo.
Yes, I would never want to start a conversation about public safety with punishment. And I think that when we look at the Secure DC bill, we're starting with punishment. When I think of public safety, I think of making sure that we have the resources in our community to make sure that people are whole and that they can live a life that is not just getting by, but that they're actually flourishing. And when I look at the bill, some of the things that I think that are important are some other aspects of public safety that oftentimes go overlooked. And that is the continual care for sexual assault survivors, the care that we provide and the resource we provide for domestic violence survivors. I think those things are very important. When I look at public safety, I also look at how are we enforcing what the standard is, right? So no matter what bill is passed, if the enforcement isn't there, then it doesn't work. And oftentimes we see that there are plenty of bills, there are plenty of laws that are on the books, but we're not doing the right job when it comes to enforcement. So as a council member, I would want to make sure that the enforcement is there on the laws that we already have.
Thanks so much. Mr. Batchelor.
Sure, yeah. On Secure DC, I mean, my general thoughts are that I think it's not a public safety strategy. I think it was a swing in the dark that missed, and I think has the potential to put a lot of innocent people at risk. I think some of the provisions that made it into the bill, I do agree with the blue light program. I think that's a very innovative model. We should have expanded beyond college campuses a long time ago. Requiring the mayor to have a comprehensive safety strategy is long overdue. Nutrition and hospitality at the DC jail is important, but clearly I have concerns about things like the drug-free zones, about DNA collection, about the way that MPD officers will be able to pre-review body cam footage before filing a report. I think they are all a very slippery slope, and I quite frankly think the council was irresponsible to ignore the advice of its own racial equity office in passing this bill with so many dangerous provisions.
Thank you so much for those responses. Appreciate you all. Want to note in the chat, folks have been asking for you guys to put in your campaign websites. So if you have a minute to do that, or someone from your campaign to do that, we'd appreciate it. All right, ready for question 4? Same format. I'll read the question. You'll have 1 minute to respond. Our order for this question will be Mr. Batchelor, Mr. Adolfo, Mr. Branch, and then Councilmember White. The median Black household income is $54,000 compared with $161,000 for white households. 38% of Black children live in the 38% of Black children who live in the ward live in poverty. What would you do to improve the economic well-being of the district's lowest income residents and to build the Black wealth of Black and brown residents in Ward 8?
Sure. Well, I'll start where it's most important and work my way up. For our poorest residents, we need to create an economic floor. The inequality in our city is the largest in the nation, and it's unsustainable. There are people who are living very high on the hog, and there are people who are living in deep and desperate despair. And in a city as prosperous as ours, that shouldn't be the case. So we've got to right size our tax system, but we've also got to do innovative things like expand guaranteed income programs that build that economic floor for folks. But as a Ward 8 council member, I'm also going to be focused on bringing good paying jobs with living wage work that allow people to organize in the workplace and retire with security. There are not even close to enough opportunities for people to invest in a career more than get a job in our community, and barely that. So we need to invest in making sure people are trained with the skills that they can build on so that they can build that security long-term and that wealth long-term that families depend on.
Thanks so much. Mr. Adolfo.
Yes, I think this is a massive haul for just one person to take on. So I wouldn't even try to take that on just as a council member. I would engage with other council members, especially the at large and the chair, to work with other community organizations to address some critical needs that I think that help push us on the right path to become financially sound. And that's making sure that we get stable education, right? Making sure that we have financial literacy classes in our schools, and making sure that we get families involved in this process, because the information that we share with children, it also needs to be shared with the people who are in their community as well. Then there's the DC Opportunities Accounts Program through the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. They have the Financial Empowerment Center, working with families to make sure that they're connected to that resource like I'm doing now, working with Industrial Bank and some of our other financial institutions to teach financial literacy classes to children at a young age. So once we can lay the foundation for a good, solid education, then we can move forward from there.
Thanks a lot. Mr. Branch, you're up.
Thank you. So can you hear me now? Is the mic better?
We can actually hear you a lot better now. Thank you.
I had to make some adjustments. Thank you. So yeah, initially, I think it's important to make sure that we identify what healthy public-private partnerships look like when making sure that every resident in Ward 8 can have a living wage. I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to do. More times than not, we're looking to provide opportunities for people that don't really equate to, celebrating the fact that they can now have decision-making authority because they now control their own destiny with a wage that they can live with. I think another thing we have to make sure that's happening is that there's stability in the home. And that looks like using some of the experiences that we see from young people in schools as points that triage us, that give us triage moments for families when they see crisis happening or about to occur. We have to have a robust CTE program in our schools because while we want to push college readiness for everyone, one of the things that we have to make sure we're mindful of is the fact that those who aren't going to college still deserve an opportunity to have enriching lives that pay a wage that can allow them to enjoy being a DC resident and can continue the conversation of generational opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Council member?
First, I would like to say we are in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, a thriving economic city that has a plethora of opportunities. One thing we have to do is give people the training and skills to get access to not just jobs, but careers. One of the things I've done already is that I think that we should be working in our own government. There are a lot of people who come to DC that claim DC residency, that get jobs in DC, they're not from here. Then you have people who live here who move to Maryland, Virginia because they can't afford to live here. So one thing I did was I introduced and passed legislation that gave DC high school graduates more points when applying for DC government jobs. I also used the DOES relationships to create DCI was DCIA, DC Infrastructure Academy, right here in Ward 8. They give the business opportunities and also the residents opportunities to merge to create a happy story. We can employ people at Pepco. We can get people solar jobs, that we can put our money where our mouth is. We also created crowdfunding to give people more equity in their living space in the Reunion Square project. And so I've been intentional about creating equity when it comes to jobs and wealth.
Thank you so much, Councilmember White. All right, we're serious about that time, you guys. So the 1 minute is still in effect. All right, let's move on. We have one more full-length question before the lightning round. So this last question, again, 1 minute for response. This time, the order is Mr. Branch, Mr. Batchelor, Councilmember White, and Mr. Adolfo. And here's our question. When we ask young people what they need to address violence in their communities, they've made it clear that there aren't enough safe places to go after school that have mentors and positive things to do in their neighborhoods. How would you address and fund the need for additional safe and enriching opportunities for youth in Ward 8? Mr. Branch.
Awesome. I'm going to try to keep it under a minute. So ultimately, I think what's important that we do is make sure that we're understanding what young people are looking for and what they desire. One of the things that made Ballou High School transform from the most dangerous high school in the district statistically to then one of the safest in the district statistically was making sure we understood what the interests were of young people. Once we identified what that interest was, what those interests were, we wanted to make sure that we were of service to those populations of people around the things that got their attention. We slid the medicine within that applesauce by making sure there were teachable moments, but we had to really make sure we're providing them with experiences that they were looking to have. When it comes to funding those things, I can tell you from direct experience that there's lots of spending in the district that and there are opportunities to make sure that the funds that exist in the district get allocated appropriately, and the best investment we can make is in young people. We send hundreds of millions of dollars back to the general fund every year. That money should be put to use.
Thank you so much. Mr. Batchelor.
Yeah, for sure. For young people who need quality recreation, the most DPR is still too high barrier when it comes to signing up for activities, when it comes to just gaining access to some facilities. If you don't have an engaged parent or kind of those things that our most at-risk young people don't have, it is far too hard to engage in the program and at DPR. It's far too hard to walk up to a rec center and pick up a basketball and just be. So we've got to break down those barriers at DPR. we've also got to speed up our commitment to build new recreation options here in Ward 8. It takes far too long to build a rec center here in Ward 8. It took a shorter time between when President Kennedy said we'll send a man to the moon to when we were on the moon. And so we've got to speed up that process. And I've also got a really innovative program that models what Maryland is doing now, which could combine programs that we are already funding to create a service year program for young people in this city, not just to give them wages, but also put them back to work in our communities.
Councilmember White.
Yes, thank you. I think first we have to start listening to our young people. They're telling us clear as day that it's not safe. And so I've been very intentional about putting more money in the budget for officer out of school time, which is currently in the budget now. I've been intentional about putting more funding into late night hype. That's creating recreation opportunities for teenagers all across the district. I've been intentional about the mandatory mentoring bill that's coming up now. I've been intentional about creating safe places for youth and young adults to go after school. I think that we have to create the vehicle where people can go and feel safe. And I think we haven't done enough of that. And so I put money in the budget to open up 4, 5, 6 new recreation centers in Ward 8. So I'm not just talking the talk, but for the last 7 years, I've been walking the walk. And so we know what they need. We have money in the budget, but we have to make sure that the need meets the community. And so I'm very intentional also about making sure that we have the right people working in the right spaces to provide for our children.
Mr. Adolfo.
Yes, I think one of the opportunities that we have to take advantage of is creating after-school programs for our children right at the schools that they're at. Many of the DC public schools can have children stay right there. They don't have to go anywhere, right? So we can make sure that we can work with our community partners to increase those opportunities. I think that we have funding that is already allocated to a lot of projects. They just, they haven't been properly allocated to those projects. So that's where having relationships with the Office of the Mayor and our other colleagues on the council to make sure that we can get that funding into those spaces. I think that what we have with some of the rec centers are great opportunities. Many of the programs that we have, I find that children just don't know about them or their families just don't know about them. So increasing the opportunity to do outreach to get to children and the people who are in need connected to the resources that are available.
Thank you so much. Thanks to each of you for responding to that question. We appreciate it. Are you ready for lightning round? Yes, let's do it. All right, so I will read a question and we will ask you to do thumbs up if your answer is yes, or thumbs down if your answer is no. Don't go here in the middle. Thumbs up for yes. And make sure that your thumb is like in front, right? So we can see in the camera, or thumbs down. All right, ready? And also hold it for a little bit. I'll kind of go around and make sure we can see everybody's. All right, let's get started. Currently, only buildings constructed before 1976 are covered by rent control. Do you support applying rent control to apartment buildings once they reach 15 years old, including phasing in current buildings? Thumbs up for yes, or thumbs down for no. Mr. Batchelor, yes. Mr. Adolfo, yes. Councilmember White, yes. And Mr. Branch, yes. Thank you all. Next question. Do you support banning solitary confinement in the DC jail? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. All candidates, thumbs up. Thank you. Do you support raising property taxes on our highest value homes, such as those over 2 million, in order to fund vital services? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. Mr. Batchelor, Mr. Adolfo, Councilmember White, okay, and Mr. Branch, all thumbs up, yes. Thank you. Do you support the recent effort to expand pretrial detention of people accused of a crime but not convicted at that point? Thumbs up for yes or no. I'm seeing thumbs down, no, for all candidates. All right, thank you all. Do you support the decision to create drug-free enforcement zones areas that'll be targeted for increased surveillance where it'll be easier for the police to stop and question residents? I already see no from Mr. Batchelor, Councilmember White, Mr. Adolfo, and now Mr. Branch. All right, thank you all. The RFK site may soon be under DC control. Most neighbors want to protect its current uses, like for playing fields, a farmer's market, and adding other housing and other amenities. Mayor Bowser wants to bring an NFL stadium to the site. Do you support prioritizing an NFL stadium at RFK? Thumbs up for yes, down for no. All right, Mr. Batchelor is a no. Mr. Adolfo, what was that? Yes. Councilmember White, yes. Mr. Branch, yes. Thank you all so much. Two more. Some restaurants now use service fees that add up to 20% to a customer's bill. While the money goes to the owner, many customers tip less because they think the fees go to workers. Do you support banning deceptive restaurant service fees? Thumbs up for yes, down for no. Mr. Batchelor is a yes. Mr. Adolfo, Councilmember White, and Mr. Branch are all yeses. Thank you. Final question. Washington Gas wants to spend billions to upgrade pipes and pass on the cost to customers, even though DC is working to phase out fossil fuels. Do you support stopping Washington Gas from spending billions on pipes that we won't need in just a few years? Thumbs up for yes, down for no.
Say the question one more time.
Yeah, Washington Gas wants to spend billions to upgrade pipes and pass on the cost to customers, even though DC is working to phase out fossil fuels. Do you support stopping Washington Gas from spending billions on pipes that we won't need in just a few years? All right, Mr. Batchelor. Okay, all candidates are a thumbs up now. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. All right. Now we're going back to a couple more long form questions. These questions are coming from DC for Democracy members by video, or excuse me, by chat. We're working in real time here. All right, bear with me. All right, so I'll read the question and you each will have 1 minute to respond. The order is going to be Mr. Adolfo, Mr. Batchelor, Mr. Branch, and Councilmember White. Sound good? All right. What steps would you take to improve the educational outcomes of Black and Brown kids, especially in Ward 8? What's not working well in our, let me start over again. What steps would you take to improve the educational outcomes of Black and Brown DC children, especially in Ward 8? What is not working well in our system of providing and overseeing public education? Mr. Adolfo, you're up first.
All right. Well, one of the first things I think that we should do is provide more care for our educators, making sure that our educators can have mental health days and wellness coordinators, because if we can get to our educators and get them in the right space, then by default, they're better prepared to work with our children. Another thing that we need to do is improve the quality of our facilities. I go into many schools, HVACs don't work. The classrooms just aren't equipped with the technology that's necessary to provide adequate education to our children. Another thing is also making sure that safe passages is something that we can improve upon. Increasing educational opportunities and resources for our children that have special needs is also important as well. And I think overall, when we're looking at our education, making sure that the curriculum includes critical skills that our children need post high school, whether that be increasing more vocational opportunities or forming some partnerships with University of the District of Columbia Workforce Development Program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Batchelor.
Yeah, so I believe that good schools are the center of good communities. And on the State Board of Education, I was a champion for making sure that our neighborhood schools got the funding we need, that we invested in our feeders, and that our neighborhood schools were the center of quality school choice in our community. I'll double down on that. as a member of the council. I was also one of our city's fiercest advocates for the expansion of community school programs that not only make our schools the hubs for high quality instruction, but also make them the hubs for the resources that students and families need to be successful long term. Ballou and Anacostia and schools like Kramer are implementing community school programs now in their third or fourth year. And we're beginning to see parent engagement go up. We're beginning to see academic achievement go up. We're beginning to see a connection to the school go up. And I'll double down on all the other things that I was fighting for from the State Board of Education: ending chronic absenteeism, ending teacher turnover, which is most acute in schools east of the river, and making sure that we hold our schools accountable.
Thanks, Mr. Branch.
I'll try to keep it under a minute. As a career educator, I think that this is something that I've dealt with directly and saw real change happen. We oftentimes want to put so many different programs and procedures and processes around schools, and we forget the fact that they are places for teaching and learning to occur. And I think the greatest liberator of all is to make sure that young people have the skill set to access information, to grow into the adults they want to be. To that end, we have to make sure that we're investing in our teaching staff in a way that allows them to ensure every young person, by the time they hit the third grade, can read and access information. We have to provide training for those teachers and cover the cost for that training for every teacher in the district, regardless of what school they're in. We then have to make sure that all the supports for young people who have needs beyond the everyday curriculum are supported. And then we have to make sure that we're triaging the issues that we see come up in the classroom by connecting with parents, connecting with families. But ultimately, we have to make sure we're investing in the people who are investing in our children, our teachers.
Thanks a lot. Councilmember White.
First, we got to have high quality seats in our ward. There's far too many kids that get up early in the morning and coming home late because they're traveling all across the city just try to get a healthy quality education right here in our ward. We got to support recruiting and keeping high quality teachers. That's been an issue in our schools. We have to provide stronger and more electives and more options for our schools. I was instrumental in bringing BARD DC for early college here to Ward 8. I went to Baltimore, saw it, worked with the mayor, and brought it to DC. We also bought UDC Community College right here in Ward 8. We got to add more funding for after school programs. We got to make school fun again. Schools have become a teach to the test. We got to be more innovative how to grasp and keep students engaged to help them bring forth the gifts and talents outside of them for those who go into college, going to careers. Our students have to be prepared to compete in the world. We have to provide year-round jobs. Our students are suffering, living in poverty, trying to make it. So I'm all for providing jobs year-round for our students to thrive and not just survive in the Southeast.
Thank you so much. Thanks to you all for answering that question. Our next question comes from DC for Democracy member Lisa Rice. It's going to be a video, I believe. And when it is done, we will have Councilmember White respond
first. This is Lisa Rice, the proposer of the Make All Votes Count DC Act of 2024, or you probably know it as Initiative 83. I am a member of DC for Democracy, a Ward 7 resident, and ANC commissioner. I'd love to find out what you think about 83 and if you support us or not. It's about opening primary elections to independent voters, those of us who are unaffiliated, 1 in 6 of your neighbors are, and implementing ranked choice voting in primary and general elections. I'd love to hear your answers, and I want to know what you think. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Everybody heard the question? Yes? Okay,
What's the
great.
order? What's the order? I know I'm first.
Yeah. Let me give you the order. So we'll start with Councilmember White, then go to Mr. Branch, Mr. Batchelor, Mr. Adolfo.
Thank you. So I do support allowing independents to vote in the primary. However, I do not support ranked choice voting. I remember even 2 elections ago during the mayoral race, only 7% of Ward 8's population voted in the primary for mayor, right? And I've been running in Ward 8 for over a decade, and the turnout has always been low. And so I think we have to do more to double down, inform, and give voters information. I think that there are some national initiatives are just not healthy for DC. I think we adopt things from other places that don't work here. I think it further confuses the voters and will disproportionately affect brown and Black people here in the district. So I do not support ranked choice voting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Branch.
At this time, I can't support it. My concern lies in the ensuring that the voice of the Black and brown communities are accurately represented and not diluted in the voting process. In a district with a significant African-American population like ours, there's a risk that ranked choice voting could inadvertently disadvantage the population that serves the aim. I think oftentimes we do these things without recognizing the unintended consequences. And so by allowing individuals outside of the community to participate in the voting process through ranked choice voting, I think the community's preference and needs might get overshadowed and misrepresented. Thank you.
Mr. Batchelor.
Yeah, I support the initiative. As many folks on this call know, I was a part of the Rank the Vote coalition, and we've seen in places where ranked choice voting is implemented, including New York City, which is the world's largest municipal election, that not only was there a low level of voter confusion, but you also got a greater diversity of opinions and thoughts and demographics. The New York City Council now has a majority woman, is majority women, which had never happened before. They also elected a Black mayor, its second Black mayor. And so, and as DC's population, Black population dwindles, we need to think about how we make sure that, especially on citywide races, where if you ask anybody in Ward 8 when the at-large or mayoral election comes, we get ignored anyway, how we take methods to change the way not only that we vote, but the way candidates campaign. And in a ranked choice voting election, candidates have to campaign differently. You want to campaign for that second or third choice, and that changes the way that people interact with candidates. So I support it.
Mr. Adolfo.
I do not support it. I think that open primaries defeats the purpose of having a primary. We might as well just have a general election if that was the case. And as far as ranked choice voting, we see that in the election that we oftentimes don't get the same number of votes for the second at-large council member as we do the first. So I wouldn't believe that now if we had ranked choice voting, that would increase voter engagement.
Thank you. Thank you all for that. We're actually taking our next question. It came from the chat tonight. So I'll read it, but it's got two pieces to it. What will you do about mental health resources in Ward 8 and our food deserts? What will you do about mental health resources in Ward 8 and our food deserts? The order this time will be Mr. Adolfo, Councilmember White, Mr. Batchelor, and Mr. Branch. Mr. Adolfo?
What I'm currently doing right now as a commissioner is working with the Ward 8 Farmers Market to help build the capacity of it to serve more residents, as well as working with them and some of the developers that we have on the projects in ANCHC to see if we can find capacity for them to have retail space. It's a 20-year institution in our community, and I think it's a whole lot easier for us to work with something that's already established and help it build capacity, as opposed to try to start something from scratch. As it pertains to mental health, one of the recommendations that we made as a commission was to increase then the mobile crisis unit, which is now the community response team at the Department of Behavioral Health, to make sure that they have the resources to be in our community on a more continuous basis. And just today, they were at the intersection of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, providing resources to our community. So I think that that's one of the things that we can do.
Thank you. Councilmember White?
Yes, so I supported legislation for the East End Store Incentive Act. I also put $600,000 in the budget to open up 2 new grocery stores here in Ward 8. Unfortunately, one closed. We relocated one to the St. Elizabeth's East Campus. I believe that we can't be solely dependent upon big food chains to feed us, and so I helped to create what is now known as the Well at Oxen Run, which is a produce factory. We can feed and grow our own produce. We are agricultural people. I also support recruiting more businesses to Ward. In fact, we will be opening up a new grocery store in Ward 8 in the upcoming months. So I just haven't been talking the talk, but I'm spending my time, energy, walking the walk. And I think that we have a far way to go, but we've made some significant progress in increasing the equity gap when it comes to grocery options here in our ward. Oh, And I got more time. I fought to keep the Giant open, which was threatening to close on Alabama Avenue. You got a champion in me. You always have, and you always will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Batchelor.
Yeah, I agree that we can't depend on big retailers to solve our problems. I think we need to speed up investment in things like corner markets that are filling tremendous gaps for some of our neighbors around the city, but haven't quite trickled, those solutions haven't quite trickled to Ward 8. You know, I know places like Elmira Market that are filling a huge gap in the Bellevue, Washington Highlands community. If we give small retailers opportunities like that to scale, I think we can begin to fill huge gaps. We also need to take advantage of future opportunities to build big grocers like at the future of the UMC site. So I'll be focused on that over the next 4 years. And then in terms of mental health, yes, we've got to get more mental clinicians in our schools. We've got to make mental health a general part of healthcare, break down the stigma, make it more accessible for folks, and make sure that people have the access to the information they need to get that information. And of course, for sure, bringing our government partners to intervene in crisis interventions, including at MPD, is going to be very important to save lives and build people up.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Branch.
Agreed. So I think there are lots of opportunities for us to look at small market, building self-sufficient small markets here in Ward 8. We do see a lot of small shops that are outfitting entire communities. How do we sustain those? How do we support those to get bigger? And those are drivers for economics in our ward because they'll hire local as well. I think there is, it's been said a few times here, a lack of reliance on the big box retailers. They've shown through the course of several decades what they think of our dollar. And I think it's time for us to double down and support one another in that space. In regards to mental health, I think the wraparound services in schools has to happen. We have to make sure we provide resources for things like mobile crisis because we know that happens in our ward to a large degree. I think there also is a need that we often miss in investing in families in a way that they are allowed to then finance their own health insurance issues. A lot of times we miss that this is a connection to poverty, and oftentimes when we don't provide avenues for opportunity, they'll continue to suffer, and we have to change that through self-sufficiency.
Thank you all. We are at our final part of the forum, which is your closing statements. You each will have 1 minute. And our order will be Mr. Branch, Mr. Adolfo, Mr. Batchelor, and Councilmember White. Mr. Branch, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. As I said earlier, the reason why I'm doing this work is because for quite some time, whether it's my time at Ballou or my time working for the mayor, I've seen the needle go the other way for Ward 8. I see that a DC that we've been promising so many community members has stopped just short of the bridge. And I recognize that now is an opportunity for us to make sure that whatever happens going forward, our community is woven into the growth that we're seeing. We're a population with just about 70% renters. The only way that we can make sure that we remain a part of this ward is to get involved in the growth process that's happening all around us. We see cranes in the sky. Not enough of us are underneath those cranes. We see businesses happening in this ward, and not enough of us are the proprietors of those businesses. And we see young people choosing an educational system that exists outside the ward. As your council member, I work to make sure we're addressing economic opportunity. We're ensuring that we have public safety issues addressed here by means of supporting our young people and making sure they grow up to be better human beings and better adults than us. Thank you. electrockmonbranch.org.
Thanks so much, Mr. Adolfo.
Yes, thank you, everybody, for the opportunity, and thank you to all of the other candidates for showing up. I think I should be the next Ward 8 council member because I've shown over an extended period of time that I have the ability to get things done. I have the ability to look at the small details and bring a team of people together to resolve those issues. Like I said, currently I'm working with the Ward 8 Farmers Market to increase capacity. This is a great need for our community. It helps to provide economic opportunities for small businesses and address a critical need as food access. Clearly, we haven't been able to get those things done because it's still a conversation. So having the ability to have greater authority and access to resources, I could expand upon the things that I've already been able to do as an advisory neighborhood commissioner. When I look across the city, I see relationships that just aren't being built. And as a council member for Ward 8, you're not just a council member for this ward, you're a council member for the entire city. So I like to bridge some of those gaps that we have and actually have a one DC with the base being in Ward 8.
Thank you, Mr. Batchelor.
Sure. Thanks, Kim, and thanks everybody at DC for Democracy for having us tonight. I hope I can get your support for an endorsement, and I hope if you're a Ward 8 resident to get your vote on June 4th, because like I said at the top, now more than ever, we need leadership that's going to be committed to doing the big things that need to be done on behalf of Ward 8 residents when it needs to be done the most. You know, I often tell people that I have the right experience. I've served this community. I was born and raised here. But I also have the right perspective. I have been a staunch ally to DC for Democracy on the values we share. I'm an organizer at heart, and that doesn't stop when I get elected to the council. We're going to have to build a coalition of neighbors to get those big things done. And we see that when we don't build those coalitions, how fickle progress can be. And so I'm going to be committed not just to winning this election, but winning a bold mandate to serve and to bring our neighbors together to achieve One Ward 8 for all of us. Thanks so much. Join us at oneward8.com.
Thank you so much. And finally, Councilmember White.
I want to thank you guys at DC for Democracy for your tremendous work. I look forward to continuing working with you guys to pass meaningful legislation and advocate for those here across the district. We talked about housing. I've been fighting for housing equity, and I delivered on several housing projects in Ward 8. Also, we started the Douglas Community Land Trust to help more people own homes in our community. We talked about business ownership when I ran the first time, and I created the Dream Grants, and also the Ward 8 SIF, the Ward 8 Community Investment Trust Fund, to spur economic empowerment so we don't have to just purchase everywhere. We can support our own and own in our own communities. We talked about healthcare. We talked about the hospital for years. Guess what? That hospital is being built right now. We talked about a senior wellness center. Seniors said they wanted a new wellness center. Guess what? It's being built right now. We talked about access to recreation. We got 2 recreation centers being built right now and 4 more on the way. We talked about quality healthcare services. Those are in Ward 8. We got a new urgent care facility right here in Ward 8. So we're not just talking the talk. I look forward to your support and vote for re-election for Trayon White for Ward 8 Council Member 2024. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much. And we've come to the end of our candidate forum for the evening. I thank you all for joining us tonight. I thank you all for the courage to run for office. You're such leaders, believing in your communities. It takes a lot to put your ideas out there and yourself out there, and so we are grateful to you. Thank you so much. I wish you well in your campaigns. Again, put your info in the chat, and we look forward to seeing you around town.
Thanks, all. Wish you guys well.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for joining us for tonight's forum. I'm going to turn it back over to my colleague, Ed Lazaire. Ed?
Well, I want to start with an enormous thank you to Kim Perry, who just did an amazing job tonight, walking through many questions and many candidates, doing it with grace and skill. Thank you so much, Kim, for being with us tonight. And I want to thank all of our candidates and all the people who attended this forum. I think anybody who was here with us tonight sees that there are just an enormous number of really committed people in Ward 7 and Ward 8 who really care deeply about their communities and have a lot to offer. And we have really amazing choices in this election. I wanted to give you a sense of what's coming up for DC for Democracy. So we will have another candidate forum Wednesday, April 10th at 7 o'clock for our at-large candidates in the Democratic primary, not the independents, just the Democrats. And then on Wednesday, April 24th at 7 o'clock, we'll have that endorsement meeting for Ward 7, Ward 8, and an at-large. You will get an email to remind you to attend, but also to ask you to sign up if there is a candidate in any of these races for whom you want to make a 1-minute speech on their behalf. You don't have to be a DC for Democracy member to speak up. If we have a lot of candidates and a lot of people signed up, we're going to have to figure out how to squeeze it in, but we encourage as many people to sign up as possible. And the last thing that I wanted to say before we close is I'm putting something in the chat. We've already met as an organization, DC for Democracy, and we had endorsed Janice Lewis George in Ward 4 for her reelection. And when we endorse people, we go and we work for them. This weekend, we are going to be out at 1 o'clock on Saturday, knocking doors and canvassing in support of Janice Lewis George. There's a link in the chat for you to sign up. If you're new to canvassing, we will train you and we will pair you with someone who's been doing it before. So even if you're a little bit nervous, come out. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to connect with DC for Democracy members, a great way to show that you really care about the city. And when we're done, we're all going to go out and have some fun together, do something show up at a bar or restaurant just to talk about our afternoon. And we're hoping the weather will be great. And with that, I want to also just thank Vanessa Lopez, Tiffany Johnson, Sharice Muhammad, who supported this event tonight. And we look forward to seeing you at our next DC for D event. And with that, good night.